What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. And today we're doing another mailbag episode, taking a look at some of your fantasy football questions and takes going into this upcoming NFL season. You've got some drafts coming up, and we're here to answer your burning questions to make sure that you are all best prepared so that you can run your leagues. Now, if you're a part of the Stay Hot 32 team league, it's
got to turn the it's not righteous to keep this episode on and take our tips. Honestly, that is one of the tough parts about running that league, is that like everyone knows like my sleepers if they listen to the pod, and many of them do.
It's kind of like insider trading, but you're like giving away like all of your tips and tricks. So
that's why I lie on these podcasts. I tell one lie, and it's up to you to figure out who it is.
Two truths and a lie, Matthew Sponhour.
Well, we're doing like 10 questions, so it'll be 9 truths and 1 devilish lie to win me my league.
Mm-hmm. Matt has never been inaccurate on a fantasy take. That just was the lie that he told to throw people off the trail in the shared leagues that we're in. How many fantasy leagues are you guys in?
You know what? One of the questions that I saw, and we can go ahead and hop into it, is like, how many fantasy leagues is too many? I don't know if that was on the list, but I think strongly it really kind of depends. Like if you have a work league and then a league with your buddies, like that's very like reasonable. A dynasty league on top of that, like, yeah, totally different game, right? I think once you're in so many leagues that you start talking about players as shares, and I know a lot of people who are really into fantasy do that, it's an entirely different game, and to me, it's way less fun. Like, if you're watching a game, like, the point of fantasy kind of is to, like, have extra incentive during a game to be cheering for something, whereas, like, if the Cowboys and Giants play, I don't really care who wins. It's interesting, but I don't care who wins. So, I think once, like, you make moves and sort of this, like, I have them in 40% of my leagues or whatever, it's just, that's against the spirit of fantasy a little bit. If you like it, I mean, do whatever, obviously. But I think that's when you get to too many leagues.
I think as long as you can keep track of them all, you're good. You're in too many once there's one that falls to the wayside, and you're leaving players on the bench that are playing and players who are on buys on the starting lineup. If you are enjoying it, and if you are keeping up with every league that you're in,
No.
It's probably okay.
If you are enjoying it, you should still feel bad. There's no doubt about that. And anyone who tells you otherwise is performative.
There is correct hobbies and there are incorrect hobbies.
And buddy, I don't know you, but I'm sure you're on the incorrect side.
And I don't know who you are, but you are definitely, you're even worse because you've chosen the correct hobby and you've made it bad.
And you've done it the wrong way.
You've done it the wrong way.
Hobby wrong.
You're literally doing it all wrong, and
that's so
ruining it for everybody by tweeting about it in your community that I happen to see sometimes. Just pissing me off. So yeah, talking about it if you're not a podcast host. Really, if you're not a podcast host, you shouldn't be on any. You shouldn't
different
be
rules if you're on a podcast, obviously.
If you're on a podcast, you can do whatever.
And this is why they need to start tariffing the podcast equipment. They need to make podcast equipment more expensive, so that not just anyone can get on and talk about the.
Dude, people say that, but podcast equipment is expensive. Not everybody can go and record a good podcast.
I was about to say, good podcast equipment is expensive. Everyone remembers the days when Theo Ash used to come on here with the like ancient $10 microphone. And
I don't remember that.
Frankly, it sounds familiar, but I can't recall it. I think for probably the first 40 or so episodes, I was not even like the right like dimensions. It was like stretched out like a joke.
Matt has done too many episodes on podcast on iPhone wired earbuds. It's happened at least 4 times.
It used to be because the Wi-Fi at my old place was just so trash. I had a guest like kind of like get at me one time for being on the phone. I don't know if you guys remember this, but dude, I was sick. And you know what? My Wi-Fi now, I've locked in. We haven't had Wi-Fi issues on Riverside too bad in a while. It used to be like it used to be like more episodes than not.
Yeah.
Somebody would be an issue. And there were different phases where some months it would be me, and some months it would be Theo, and some months it would even be Blaiden Kirk.
Yeah, it would be. And you know, this is the problem where like we were either living at our parents' houses or we were in college. And so you're kind of at the whim of the institution that is housing you, as opposed to
Not
having
his
control
fault.
over your own. Not his fault.
The
You were at the whim of the institution.
The
that
whim
is
at the
mom.
institution, bro. Fucking got me.
Frankly, it's political. But
Frankly.
do we want to get into the questions?
Yeah.
We can. This first question comes from the Stay Hot group chat. Shout out Chat BCC. Shout out Ashton S. asking the question that's really on everyone's mind about Travis Hunter, the possibility of him playing primarily defense. Should he get points for defensive stats while lined up in a wide receiver or flex spot?
I think you should get stats for like, you know, if you were like thinking about how could we change the rules to make him more valuable. First off, I do kind of think if you're in like a dynasty league that's against the spirit of the thing, especially now, like if the draft's already happened, no changing the rules. I had a league that did that one time and it made me so mad. I had a league where they're like, we should start doing points per rushing attempt. I'm not kidding. And I was like, and then 10 people were down for it or whatever. It was psychotic.
Points per rushing attempt.
I think with Hunter, I could get behind being like, we're not an IDP league, but we're going to give him points for interceptions or like maybe pass defenses. But if you start getting into like, we're going to give him points for tackles, no way. That's complete BS. Because tackles for a corner are just like totally random, right? That's part of the reason why IDP is so bad, is because corners are just like entirely irrelevant, or they're not irrelevant, but they're entirely random, or you legitimately want the bad one who lets up a bunch of catches and then makes the play. I think in general, though, like I wouldn't even bother with that. If he gets a pick six, cool, but you don't need to like put in some special rule to make him more valuable when he already could be very fantasy relevant as a wide receiver on his own.
I think plays on the ball could easily be scored for him for sure. Like you drafted him. If he scores a touchdown on defense, he scored a touchdown. And just because he's put in the wide receiver, what if he's in a flex spot? You know, flex
well,
could
he
be
would
any.
get the points for a pick six, and like you would get the points for a touchdown.
Yeah, I think he already would. So
It's just a matter of like, would he get points for an interception, and maybe for a
you know what? If defenses get points for that, I feel like Hunter would probably get points for that too, right? Or is that scoring? Okay, I'll change my take on the fly then. Hunter should get points for whatever a defense gets points for, except for obviously like points allowed or points kept. But like if you have a scoring where it's like a sack equals 1 point for your defense and Hunter is like on some weirdo like design plan, he rushes and he gets a sack, that should be a point for him. Why wouldn't it be? I totally can buy into that.
The mental image of Travis Hunter getting a sack is like breaking my brain. I've never pictured that before.
You know,
You don't think he can?
I think he can do it. I just have never really thought about him celebrating in the backfield after bringing down the quarterback. Like that just, it feels wrong, but it's totally possible.
It's like him doing like some JJ Watt.
Yeah.
They had him
celebration.
Yeah.
Look, regardless, I think I guess that wouldn't count passes defended, but also that's not even really a good way to like straight up evaluate a cornerback because like the best don't even get thrown at. But yeah, I think you should get points for whatever defenses get points for. So forced fumbles, recoveries, interceptions, that's fair game. It's Travis Hunter. You're drafting a guy who's special. If it started to get into like we have to give special IDP rules, even though we're not an IDP league, way too far. Again, especially for a cornerback.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't know if I would do recover. Do you get points for recoveries?
I honestly don't know off the top of my head how the standard is, but regardless.
Yeah, so whatever standard defensive rules are, I think you're right, Matt. I think that's the place to go. I did see a TikTok today where someone was like, proof that college doesn't matter. And it was Travis Hunter highlights. And I'm like, what?
I don't understand what that
understand what they
means.
mean.
I'm like, that's what I'm like, how does this even like remotely compute? Yeah, I'm like, this has to be rage bait. Like, this has to be.
I don't even understand what I'm supposed to get mad at, though.
They're just saying like, oh, they're just like calling Travis Hunter a bust. Like, and he hasn't even played yet.
Oh, no, that's true.
That's true. He's a bust.
Yeah.
Don't.
I mean, it's safe to say at this point.
All right. Next question, also from the Stay Hot group chat, from Malco, asking at what point. Oh, that was the question you already brought up, Matt. Okay. So this one comes from Queels. What drafting strategy do you guys like the most? Hero running back or zero running back? You know my answer.
I don't know much about the meta of building a fantasy team, to be honest with you. Like, there are players I have opinions on, and there are, seasons that I think are going to be good. The specific way to build it and the order you pick your players isn't something I've devoted a lot of mental energy to. But in my time drafting fantasy leagues, and I've drafted, I guess, a lot, I've never understood the aversion to taking a running back early. Like, if you can get a Derrick Henry, if you can get a Saquon Barkley, like...
Well, the aversion is, like, if you're in a 12-man league and you're pick 12, you typically don't have access to those guys. And so the thought is, well, let me take, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown here, and then on the turn, I'll get, like, I don't know, Devontae. I'm trying to think about, like, who would be available. Like, maybe...
But you'd wait and wait, and you'd wait for zero.
You'd get Drake London. So then your next draft pick isn't until... I mean, what, another 20 or so picks after that? So it's not so much that you're like, oh, I'm just not going to take a running back early. It's just like you end up kind of, your hand kind of becomes forced if you don't take a running back at 12, because then you're stuck with, like, Montgomery or James Conner, and, like, those are good players, but, like, you're not gonna get like a premier back if you...
To answer the question straightforwardly, I like hero RB, preferably. If I had my choice going into a draft, that's what I would do. I think that zero running back can also be good, but I feel a lot more comfortable with, like, one guy who I know is solidly my RB1 and then taking a bunch of shots, and I only got to land on one and then I'm right. I totally agree with the analysis that, like, the running backs drafted after, like 8 or 9, typically most years between that and like 20 just aren't that much more successful than, the next 10 to 20. Although I'll be real with you, I think that's kind of true. Like, I've seen some stuff for wide receiver as well. Like, it's always risky in those rounds, like the capital that you're spending versus maybe like what you're necessarily going to get back on average. So I've leaned a little bit more even into being like, I'll be the guy who takes the tight end, or I'll be the guy who takes, like, the superstar quarterback if it makes sense. I feel like so many times it's easy to be like, the 12th QB is still like a green check, but you do lose points that way, right?
I used to
that
take
being
Kelsey
said,
a lot at the end of the first.
That being said, the best strategy is not to stick to one strategy too much. When I think about the best real life drafting teams, they're always the teams that aren't going in saying, we have to have this one position. We have to have this certain type of guy. The more open your options, the more likely you are to be the guy who is, like, beating the consensus, beating ADP. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that you should just have everybody on your board and take highest ADP. Like, there should be guys who are off your list, and there's more to it than that. But if you get yourself into a strategy where it's like, I'm going zero RB no matter what, and then Derrick Henry falls to you at a certain spot, being like, well, I've already decided what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to play the board,
Sure.
is going to to be an issue for you. It's going to make it hard to have a draft that feels really good. So that's the number one thing that I'm concerned with over even like wanting to be hero running back.
Yeah, for sure. The strategy should emerge out of the choices that other people.
You got to play the draft you're in rather than the draft you want.
If Blaiden is hoarding quarterbacks and takes 3 in the first 3 rounds, then all of a sudden taking a running back is probably a great idea. Yeah. But
then you're not going to have any good quarterbacks, and you're going to have to trade me one of your running backs to get a quarterback.
True.
It's true.
It did work.
Yeah,
like
that is how it went.
That is exactly how that strategy ended up going for me, you know?
If the first 4 picks of your draft are all running backs, your mindset shouldn't be like, shit, I got to get a running back too. Like, no, you can wait. But yeah, in general, I think going into the draft with like, I'm not picking a running back, I can get one later is a bad idea. So that's why I'm kind of more against the 0 running back as a strategy.
I think hero running back is kind of like the favorite strategy now, right? I will say, additionally, there's also some truth to like, if one strategy becomes too popular, it gets worse. Right?
That's what happened to 0 running back, I think.
That's exactly what happened. And I think that happens in the NFL sometimes where if like positional value becomes overrated, then just like weighting quality of prospect heavier becomes beneficial. And vice versa. Now, it's probably still more weighting quality of prospect too much depending on the draft. But yeah, I think you should just try to play your board. I very rarely go running back unless it really falls like perfectly for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there is something to be said. They're the most tackled position, so they're probably more likely to get injured. I could probably buy into that. But wide receivers are always banged up too.
I mean, I can see in like PPR, a receiver might be more valuable in like the later parts of the first round.
They are.
Just because naturally they're getting more catches. But on the topic of hero running backs, Bucky Irving, Matt, we were talking about, had 1,500 yards from scrimmage last season. An absolute beast. How high is it reasonably to be too high on him, coming from Hard Dizzle in the Stay Hot group chat?
You know, I've been glancing at the Bucky ADP, and I've been like, wow, that is super, super high. But it is hard to deny what he was doing at the end of last year. And he had like 900 yards in the last 7 games that he played, and I think he got like banged up and taken out of one of those as well. And he plays on an offense that I think is really, really good. I think he's straight up a more talented rusher than Rachaad White. I think I would make him like closer. I would give him even more carries than he saw. But I think if you take the pacing from sort of the back half of the year, like he would have been on pace to close to 300. And I think the Buccaneers offense will be as good, maybe even better next season. And I don't think their defense is that great. Like I think they're very, very well positioned. So if you wanted to tell me that after kind of like I don't even know where you call the tier 1, I'll just say that at running back 9, I think that's pretty reasonable. I'm seeing a big gap between him and Kyron Williams. I agree.
Yeah.
I would much rather have Bucky off of situation and off of talent. I think if you told me you were going to take him over A-Chain or McCaffrey because of injury stuff, I don't necessarily think that's the best value play, but I would get it, I guess.
I get that.
I
get that.
I'm too scared about injury stuff personally. I know it's like not the best way to play fantasy, and I'm really skewed towards that in the 32 league team, of course, or team league. But yeah, I think Bucky could have a really big season if he just keeps up pace of what he was doing at the end of last year.
Yeah, I think Bucky can definitely go over A-Chain and McCaffrey. I might prefer Genty. I think I'd take Genty before Bucky. I might take Josh Jacobs before Bucky. But definitely in that kind of RB8 range, like second round, I think he's good. My concerns with him would be no Wirfs to begin the season, right? He's got a knee surgery. He's on the PUP. So that's going to impact the Buccaneers offense. I mean, they were rough without Gadecki at the beginning of last season. Like Aiden Hutchinson had a 4.5 sack game. So we'll see if that worst injury just completely derails the first month of the season for them. And if there's anything kind of downstream from that. And then the other concern I have about Bucky is he's just a little small. Like he's not built like Josh Jacobs. He's not built like Jonathan Taylor. And I don't think it makes him any worse at running. In fact, I think in some ways it makes him better because he's such a jitterbug and jukes everybody out. But it does make the coaching staff think about long-term implications of handing him the ball as much as the Colts will hand Jonathan Taylor the ball and the Packers will hand Josh Jacobs the ball. So the offensive line being a bit banged up to begin the year, plus his just kind of scat back size makes me think like he's not going to be.
Yeah, and that's definitely the argument against him is that there's probably some sort of limit on how many touches he could get. When you talk about A-Chain, you're like, okay, we've seen what the upside with him could be, which is RB1, right? Like, you know, like he's got that within him. Yeah. McCaffrey, we have some idea of what the upside is with him. It's pretty good. Does Irving have the upside as big as those guys? Like the answer is probably no. He probably doesn't have like 350 touches in him. And if that's the case, in your first round pick, can you say, I like his odds of being really great, but I'm kind of punting on the potential of getting like the best player, and I'm okay with that. If it is in the 32 team league, which we probably should not bring up, nobody's playing that. In the 32-team league, I'm taking Irving over A-Chain and McCaffrey. I'm not thinking about that twice.
Nobody's playing that, dude. We have
29 other guys are. Well,
there's the main league, there's the AA, there's the AAA. I'd say there's a good number of people.
We do talk about it too much, but
we talk about it too much, and I'm sorry. But yeah, I think you have to ask yourself with A-Chain then or with Irving then what you're going for in the first round. If you feel like it's easier to lose it than to win it, fair enough. If you feel like McCaffrey's injuries are being underplayed, fair enough. I'm kind of with you, I think.
I'm worried about McCaffrey because of his receiving at this point. Like, looking at his numbers last year, I mean, he played in such a tiny sample size. And just watching the film, I feel like the first thing to go for him is going to be the slants, like the wide receiver ass routes that he can run. Like he'll be a good check down option. I think he can be a solid runner behind that line, but is the massive receiving upside where he's just like the most efficient receiver in the game still going to be there? Because he was negative EPA on like just a tiny handful of wide receiver type routes last year. I think he only got targeted 5 times on those routes, but it was negative when they target him. So that's what I'm worried about with McCaffrey is he's injury prone, and he's been injury prone for a long time. And there's such a huge aspect of his game that requires just such a specific kind, like it's hard on his body to run the ball. And then you're drafting him, expecting him all this receiving upside as well. It's like, maybe some of it will still be there, but man, I don't know.
Yeah, there's kind of this big assumption that if he plays, he's RB1. It's like if he plays and he's back to being himself, but he's coming off of Achilles problems and he's 29 years old. And it's possible that maybe his workload is just a little bit more limited than it was.
Yeah,
right?
It should be.
So logically, that's what you would do. Now, I don't know if Shanahan is going to do that necessarily. There's totally a world where, McCaffrey comes back and he's fine and he plays every game and he has the same workload, sure. But I do think there's more risks than people are taking into account where they're just saying it's last couple of times McCaffrey has been healthy, he's been RB1. It's sure, that's true until it's not, though.
Yeah. Go through Derrick Henry's career. He's still chugging. He's 31 years old. There's never been a stretch of seasons where it's 3 games started, 7 games started, 4. Then McCaffrey was healthier for a while, but then it was 4. Those are the kinds of things that really sink you from being good at 31.
When Derrick Henry turned 28 a couple of years ago, he got moved to RB6. And maybe this isn't a fair comp because when McCaffrey has been his best, Henry probably hasn't been quite there. But I think Henry got more of a ding for just being old than McCaffrey is for being like horrifically injury prone and coming off of like a terrible injury. You know what I'm saying? I mean, last year Henry was running back 9, and he had the makings of somebody who could overcome that, and he hadn't slowed down yet, and he was moving to a good offense. And I'm not setting myself up as somebody who is never like, I don't know, the carries are a lot, because they were. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Henry had a Jones fracture in his foot in 2021, and that's the only big injury that I can remember. And that's the same injury Wilkins had that didn't heal right, and now he's released. This has gone far away from Bucky Irving, but
that's true.
It's kind of weird because I feel like the guy who's getting drafted directly after him, Josh Jacobs, I would take before Irving, but the guys directly ahead of Irving, I would take Irving before them. So I guess I'd just take Jacobs really high.
I like taking Jacobs really high. I agree. I think his upside is pretty great.
Yeah. So take from that, if you could discern what I mean. If you can figure out my riddle, then yeah, take
your riddle.
Take Bucky based on that.
Take Bucky based on that. I think everyone will figure out your riddle to some degree.
Cool. Transitive property or whatever.
I know there's also a lot of different people talking about the Bears' weapons just in general. And we've sort of touched on it in previous fantasy episodes before, just in terms of talking about Loveland and Burden and how those guys are going to get involved. There was a question on Twitter about DeAndre Swift, and he made a clarification that he's not endorsing him as a player, in parentheses, he sucks. But he does think that he's being disrespected a little bit as a fantasy RB this year just because of how much Chicago's offensive line improved. And also, it doesn't feel like the rest of the running back room is that great to be replacing him. And that's from David Johnson on Twitter. But I will say, and the kind of the conversation that we keep having about the Chicago Bears is everyone has this assumption that Ben Johnson is sort of a run-first play caller, but that might just be because of the resources that he was given in Detroit. And it's not crazy to expect them to actually be an extremely pass-heavy offense with a lot of empty sets or a lot of 3 wide receiver, a lot of 2 tight end, a lot of 4 wide receiver sets. And so that would be my only concern with Swift not getting the ball, is just like if I'm looking at guys to get on the field, kind of the same conversation we were having with Burden. It's like I feel like Swift could be one of the first guys off the field. But I don't know.
Especially in goal line situations.
Yeah.
I feel like Roshan will be on instead of him, or the Rutgers rookie. I think he's an okay pick, but there's just swings on upsides on rookies that I think I'd rather take over Swift. It's not denying that he's been productive in the past or will continue to be a perfectly fine back. But I'm not planning to get a wild card berth and lose. I'm not planning to get like okay production from the running back 2 position, even if he does get, I'd like a little bit of a bigger swing than him, and someone that I could see scoring a lot of touchdowns, which I just don't know if I can with Swift.
Yeah, I mean, he's RB23 right now, which is in David Montgomery range. Travion Henderson, who we talked about before and are pretty high on here. And like I would definitely rather have both of those guys, but I might take Swift over like an RJ Harvey. I could maybe get behind that, but then like, are you taking him over Aaron Jones? Are you taking him over James Conner?
Not Conner.
That might be that. Yeah, definitely not Conner. So like that's where I'm like, I kind of think 23 is sort of fair. So
I don't know. I think it's probably a little low. His situation is incredibly good. I mean, for all the worries we have about him as a talent, which like, okay, fair enough. We can have that conversation. Nobody's exactly all that high on like Roshan Johnson right now. Right. I mean, I just don't think that like the situation behind him is that great. the way to imagine Swift being significantly worse than he was last year, which was beating like ADP, I feel like is easier to say he gets phased out, right? But I just don't know if that's really going to happen. I think the depth there is super bad. And yeah, if Ben Johnson comes in and wants to run the ball a lot, or even if he doesn't, and Swift can just get a lot of receiving work, like, yeah, he could beat where he's at right now pretty easily. So if you're betting against the talent, fine. I'm like, I don't think he's a guy who you have to take or whatever. But if you want to say you're doing that, I could say that I'm betting against the talent of the guys behind him. Because what we're really wondering is what if too many of his touches or his snap count gets hurt. And my answer is like, I just don't think they have the guys to do it. It's disappointing that we don't have somebody like cooler behind Swift. I almost, like a rookie who really I thought had a shot to go and get this guy in a cool offense and be this year's, Bucky, right? But DJ Giddens went to the Colts, man. Damian Martinez is on the Seahawks.
Martinez would be perfect.
Seriously. It's just like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, the cool running backs just did not land here. No disrespect. So I think it's completely reasonable to be like here at 23. That's perfectly fine. But I don't disagree. Like, I like Henderson at 25 pretty good as well.
Maybe Kyle Monangai is the one. CF Budge put me on Kyle Monangai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rutgers legend.
He's very just a battering ram. Like he just breaks a ton of tackles. He falls forward. He runs with a ton of power. Like, but I don't know. Like Roshan, I don't know. Like it's kind of hard to decipher if him or Roshan will even be that kind of change of pace. And like Roshan's he's never had a lot of stiff competition in the running back room, and it's never like he's made a big impact on what Swift has been able to score. So like, would Monangai be able to do it either as a 7th rounder? I don't know.
Don't sleep.
Maybe
on
I'll do it. Maybe I'll do a
Humphrey,
review on him. I got to watch more film on Monangai before I make a call on his value. But
yeah,
Travis Homer.
Travis Homer.
I'm not even talking about that.
He's not even going to entertain it.
I'm not even going to talk about it.
I mean, there is something to be said about like Caleb Williams is going to help the run game also. Like him being able to kind of steal a gap a little bit is going to help the run game. So maybe I should be higher on Swift. I don't know.
Yeah. Caleb, I am very interested in for fantasy. I'm very interested in drafting Caleb.
Where is he?
Reason.
Right now.
He is like probably 15 or 16. He's like behind Kyler. He's behind Bo. He's behind.
I'm seeing QB 14 right now.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see if Ben Johnson's strategy this offseason of seeming to ignore just kind of the run game generally has something to do with the fact that he thinks he can finagle something with Caleb's legs, like, and involving that a little bit more. I don't know, but it's something that I always thought was very underrated about Caleb Williams is just like the pure like vision downhill runner that he is, like the toughness that he runs with, like he's shifty, like he can work off blocks. Like there's a lot to like about him in the option game. I think I didn't write this note down for this episode, but I think Caleb broke more tackles at a higher rate than any other quarterback last year. So it's not necessarily something you want him doing a lot, breaking tackles.
No.
But it is.
I mean, I think it could be interesting to see if Ben Johnson sort of implements what Washington had going on with Jaden Daniels, right? I mean, their run game was very much predicated on just Daniels, and especially early on in the year, it was like either your guy is there or you take off, right? And maybe that's something, because again, like you say, Caleb Williams has more than enough athleticism, very similar athletic profile in terms of like speed and quickness to Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could be something that they implement. And if we're comparing to like Brock Purdy, I think I'd rather have Caleb Williams than Brock Purdy. Kyler is sort of a wild card, but so is Caleb Williams, I guess. So that might be up in the air a little bit. But I feel like in that range from like once you get past like Baker and Mahomes, you kind of got your pick of like Bo Nix, Kyler, Fields, Goff, Purdy, Dak, Williams. I don't think you'd be crazy to take Williams as the first of those bunch.
Yeah, rushing upside's such a cheat code, and it's a copycat league, and I think Ben Johnson's definitely got to be looking at what the Commanders were able to do with, Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson, who aren't exactly like,
No, they're not.
Like they're not exactly Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley or anything.
No.
So I think there will be a lot of auxiliary plays that kind of function as the run game. 2 guys like Burden, 2 guys like DJ Moore, 2 running backs on the field, some sort of option for eye candy for the linebackers involving Caleb's threat to keep it, which would involve Caleb keeping it himself sometimes. Like all these little things to keep his completion percentage north of 70%, like they say they want to do, and just make the offense run a lot smoother, which would result in more opportunities. So I like the Bears offense, and I guess Swift is the only guy there that
I don't know.
Really
I think Swift is fine where he is ADP wise. I think I've heard bad things about Burden from camp.
He got chewed out apparently, but apparently everybody's been getting chewed out. Like I could say be low on Caleb if getting chewed out is bad at Bears practice.
I think it's interesting that DJ Moore is not seeing like any boost from a potentially better offense. I think people are kind of worried that maybe he like gets the axe a little bit. And there's obviously like some weirdo stuff with him where like he wasn't trying last season, but if you don't think that's going to happen again, I still do think he's the most talented receiver on the team and a much improved offense, not being taken far over where he ended up finishing last year, I don't think. So I would really, really think DJ Moore could be the guy. And I don't hate where Odunze is being taken. I think late 30s. That's about right to me. Honestly, it might be Moore as the guy where it's like his upside is still being like, a 150-ish target guy, right? I mean, he totally could do that on an offense that's improved. And his downside even last year was like not much lower of where his ADP was. So you need Ben Johnson to like really hate him or like an injury or whatever. Right. But I think, I don't know, maybe that upside is too much, but I don't think it's impossible.
Caleb's a better man than me if he throws to DJ Moore 150 times.
Well, how many targets did DJ get last year?
140.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's a little extreme, but he could still end up very high.
Definitely. He's got so much more talent than what he put out there last year.
Colston Loveland is getting 150 targets.
Loveland, I don't mind, but if with all these debate about weapons, I do like taking Caleb, I think, where it's like you don't even have to worry about which weapons are going to be the guys and which ones aren't. Just take the quarterback.
Here's the real question, guys. Will anyone be fantasy relevant on the New England Patriots? This comes from @ChrisHogan22 on Twitter. We've talked about Travion, so we'll kind of ignore him a little bit because Travion is kind of the obvious guy. It's like first good running back they've had in quite some time. It's fair to say he probably gets a good share of touches and burn.
Yeah.
But like Drake May, do you see him being fantasy relevant with an improved receiving core? Do you see, Matt, I know you're a big Kyle Williams fan. Do we see Stephon Diggs being more fantasy relevant this year? How are we feeling? Maybe their defense. Are you picking their defense this year?
No, I don't think I'm picking their defense. I don't think I'm picking Drake May just because I'm worried about the offensive line and I'm worried about the sacks that he could take, and I'm worried that he's going to be top 5 in pressure rate faced again. And all the things that come out of that, like it just can get rough. I don't know if Will Campbell himself is going to completely turn things around. And he's a guy that also hasn't received like glowing reports out of training camp so far. So like the idea to me that Drake May is all of a sudden going to be like sitting in the pocket, guys open downfield, like putting up, 4,000 yards passing easily, 30 touchdowns, whatever. It seems a little bit far-fetched to me when all the weapons have questions. Like Diggs is coming off an ACL. Kyle Williams is just a rookie. Like Hunter Henry is kind of this possession guy, just kind of, catches it and sits down. He's not that crazy explosive or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super high on the Patriots offense as a whole. I'm interested in Henderson because he can take just a little sliver and go the distance, and he can catch passes and kind of be a downfield weapon from the running back spot. So he definitely intrigues me the most.
Mm-hmm.
Williams is getting taken so low, Kyle Williams, and could enjoy
Kyle
it.
Williams is like a pretty deep sleeper.
Yeah.
I would say. I mean, he's
Wide
been taken
receiver
in what the 60s.
61. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm not
that right
interested in
there.
Ramondre. I'm not that interested in Diggs.
Yeah, Diggs at 40, I think, is fine. Henderson, I actually kind of like as a bet. I think there's a real chance he could crush that backfield.
That's why I feel like he's like the obvious.
And like he's a guy who could still have big play, like touchdown upside, even if the offense isn't great because of who he is. And like he could catch the ball a lot. There's a lot of ways for him to get there without necessarily the offense being perfect, right? And yeah, I agree. May is going like pretty high. May is going as like a mid backup, like right around Stroud and Love, above Trevor Lawrence. It's like I think I like some of these other dudes better.
Yeah.
I get that he ran a lot last year though.
Yeah.
But still, I just he's not going to be relevant if the offense isn't good. He could be better and it still not be super, super great. So I kind of out on May, fine with Diggs where he is, but he's not somebody I'm like licking my chops over. I think Henderson is a good bet, and I really like Kyle Williams as a sleeper off of talent. That's where I am.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of get where Drake May is. I mean, he's kind of at the top of his range, I feel like. Like the guys behind him are McCarthy, Tua, Cam Ward, Trevor might be a little low here then. Penix, then Stafford, who
I mean, once you're getting the quarterback 18, I will admit like it's starting to get pretty dang
right
low, but I think there's guys with more upside behind them, honestly.
Yeah.
Trevor I think could be higher. I'd probably take Trevor over May. I'd probably take Stafford over May just based on like I'm pretty confident that he's just going to be good consistently, and he'll have his big games. Bryce Young, I might even be more interested in just based on the back half of last year, but that might even be a little bit of a reach. Geno Smith, I'm definitely higher on.
I think Geno's tough because he doesn't have the rushing upside.
I guess that's
the
fair.
receivers are a little. The receivers are a little questionable there as well.
He still found a 5 finish in 2023. No,
Geno,
or am I making that up? Did he not?
He probably
have a great fantasy finish.
Did he? But I agree. Like, Geno's a really good sleeper. I'm a big fan of taking.
He had a QB1 finish, I think, but not like maybe not like a 5.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. I'm completely making that up, I suppose.
Let me know. But yeah, I just think, is there a weaker receiving core than the Patriots in the league right now? I guess.
Not many. No.
Like
that's a simple way to put it.
If you could play man against any team in the league, like who would have the most success against? I think like the Patriots, you'd probably feel the most comfortable. And I think Diggs still showed a little something before he tore his ACL, but it was mostly underneath stuff. Like he didn't seem to be kind of this 3-level scorer.
2022 Geno 5th. Not making that up. And Dak is somebody who we like, who's I'm going to be pretty pure pocket. I don't know if I'm like that. I think there's a lot of guys that I'm looking at over May as my backup. I don't have any faith in the like overall offense being good enough, unless you think he's really going to run a ton again.
Yeah.
I'd have him more like quarterback 21 or 22 rather than 18, I guess. So
Yeah, I agree.
he's not somebody I'm going to be drafting that often. Although I love May the talent. I think May is great.
You're not going to have many shares of him, Matt? You're not going to be drafting him that often?
Manny's cutting this. I'm good.
Manny's cutting this.
It's a phrase. It's
fantasy for me, not for the
It's
fun.
Yeah, Manny's. It's all good. We're not putting this in the app.
We're actually just not putting out this episode at all.
We're not putting out this episode. This is it. No. What's the next question?
Next question. Let's go to. I lost my place here. Okay, let's do which rookie running backs besides the first rounders? We talked about Henderson, obviously, but what about some of the others? Do you like?
Of the rookies, I mean, dude, I'm so serious about DJ Giddens being a beast. I don't know. I mean, like, Jonathan Taylor is there, of course, so it screws up the whole thing. And he's the level of running back where it's impossible to eat into his touch. Like, it can't happen. There's probably like 10 guys where something would have to happen, maybe 12, and he's one of them. So I can't get my take off. But Giddens is a great player, and he could be like a league-winning handcuff situation is kind of my thought on him.
Giddens, I do like some of what he's able to do.
He's crazy, bro. He's crazy with the ball in his hands.
Let me say, I'm getting more intrigued by Scatabo. I'm getting more and more intrigued by Scatabo, just because. Well, he catches passes. He had 1,500 rushing yards last year and 500 receiving yards. He was the first college running back to do that since Christian McCaffrey. And I think that he just doesn't have that many people in front of him. Like, Tyrone Tracy had a good rookie season, no doubt, but he fumbled 4 times. His DVOA was negative 7.1, which is not great. His receiving DVOA was also quite bad. He wasn't a very efficient receiver. Like, he was good. He was exciting. He made some big plays, but I don't think that he's necessarily a guarantee to be better than Scatabo. And Scatabo has the same kind of receiving upside and might just be better at some of the tempo and feel and just general, running back stuff. So
I agree. I think Scadabo's he's a cool player. So
He's cool. He's got some limitations that make me think like he's not going to be, Derrick Henry in the league. But let's take a page from let's trust the analytics and the calculator with this one and say, look, he's got crazy production, breaks a ton of tackles. He's behind somebody who wasn't crazy efficient last year. Now, no one's been efficient in New York for a long time, which is definitely worth saying. But I don't know. He's not getting drafted that high. I think Scatabo is a rookie that I'd
certainly the guys behind him like Javonte Williams or Rashad White. There's dudes who I don't think have the upside that he does of just like being a rookie, I guess, and winning. So I know that Washington guy has been getting some
Ja'Cory Crossy-Mary.
I haven't seen much about him, but I will say I think that room is crazy winnable, and it's a super good room. And very specifically, it's a team that is held back, I think, by its running backs. So if you think that he has any level of rushing talent, I would very much be in on him as a super deep sleeper.
I feel
like I've been hearing some good
I've watched him, and he's pretty good, I think. So I could definitely see it being legit. Now, don't start dreaming about. Don't make sure that expectations aren't going to get too high.
He's running back 70 right now. So
yeah, he's 70 right now, and I think that's really going to rock it up because now it's a little training camp blurb here and there. Then it's going to be preseason, and then eventually he's going to hit the mainstream by the time it's September. And we'll see how high he ends up climbing. But right now, he's certainly a safe value. Like, he's got really good vision. I think he was really impressive finding like backdoor cutting lanes. He's got a great jump cut. He does what I think of as the Josh Jacobs thing, because I'm thinking through a Packers colored glasses of like getting through the tiny crease in the offensive line. The safety is filled and he makes like a jump cut in like a really tight window, like right after he clears the first wave. Like that jump cut already happens, and then he works off the receiver and gets up the sideline. Like he knows the paths, and he's very shifty. He's got enough speed to me. He does like to lower the pads. I don't think he's got crazy like contact balance or anything. I don't think he's got crazy burst, but it's good enough. And he can also receive a little bit. I mean, he only played in one game last year because of eligibility issues. But in that game, he ran like a wheel route up the sideline. They threw it to him. He like skied for it, you know, think kind of the Odell Beckham one-handed type situation. Obviously, it wasn't like Odell Beckham's, but you know the motion on the sideline, like kind of reaching behind him. Caught it, turned around, tried to dead leg and get his foot down. Couldn't quite get it on the chalk. But I was still like, that's a hell of an effort from a running back 20 plus yards downfield, like twisting and turning and catching, like the vision he can receive. I've found his blocking to be adequate, like decent speed, decent physicality, like no real like black marks. I was like, I don't know if he's like crazy dynamic, but there was maybe a little bit of like discount Joe Mixon in his game was kind of the comp I was working with in my head. But really discount. I don't think he's that violent or that explosive, but I could certainly see, I think it's not surprising me to see him get hype in that during training camp, because I think he's more than a 7th round talent. It was just the eligibility issues that made people, you know, not be sure about him. He only played in one game last year, right? There's not much to evaluate. I think his talent, I think if he played longer, he would have been more than a 7th round pick. And yeah, landing in Washington is not a bad spot to land in. There, like we said, there's no Jonathan Taylor there. So yeah, that's my.
I think that's fair. I've been really high on Devin Neal for a while, and I'm gonna stay that's sort of a winnable situation for him outside of Kamara. But I mean, he can still get some burn there for sure, especially as just like a pure runner. I think he might be able to beat out Kamara in that aspect. Even though Kamara still will get a lot of like receiving use. But also I've been thinking about like the Browns running back situation too. And I kind of think Dylan Sampson could be a guy to get some workload. He's got some pretty nice contact balance. I think maybe a little bit better than Ford. And he's also pretty explosive and can really make plays at the second level. So I'd be excited about maybe taking one of those guys. I mean, they're both getting drafted like late 60s, so it'd be in terms of like running back. So I don't think either of those guys are going to be like difficult to get in any way, but could potentially have some use in their offenses this year.
Yeah, Neal's super fun to watch. He's just got that 0 mile an hour mindset where he's just like letting all the chaos unfurl around him, and he's almost just walking. It makes sense why the Saints and the team with Kamara might look at him and say, that's cool. I don't know if he is the next Kamara, but he's pretty intriguing.
Yeah.
Ollie Gordon is another guy I'll name as a deep rookie sleeper, just because I could see him being a good between the tackles, like goal line power back. If the Miami offense is good, A-Chain is not a good goal line back, right? Maybe Gordon could like pirate some touchdowns and be worth like a waiver stash at some point during the season. But yeah, I don't think any of the rookies are that bad of an investment though. Like I think all the rookies, if you end up with any of the rookie running backs, like you can feel pretty okay about it, I think.
Yeah. So we've got a few more that we can still do here. I'd like to talk about this one, just because I think it's kind of a fun one that Theo, you were sort of interested in. What would be your first overall pick in a fantasy draft that involved players from every sports league? And so I need you to kind of lay out, like, what
Shohei
are the
Ohtani would be the easy one.
Yeah, Otani. Well, I've seen fantasy leagues that involve multiple sports. Like there's,
Okay.
I know some viral video. Some friends made a league where they came up with a scoring system that was pretty even for everybody, and then they had a draft where like Jokic went first, and Nathan McKinnon went second, and then it was Jamar Chase, and then it was whoever, and that just sounds fire to me. I don't know that
it
much
does
about
depend
other
on the
sports.
scoring. Jokic would be very high up there, though, in just a 1 year. I mean, like what he does statistically is crazy.
Are we including like golf or F1 or
That would be
NASCAR?
crazy. I think they were thinking mostly about American team
The
sports.
4 major.
But you definitely could figure out a way, and I think it would be fun to figure out a way to yeah. I think there's a way that you could do every sport. Like there's a way to make NASCAR drivers, scoring. There's some way to make them score like 20 points. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
for every time you lead a lap, you get like more points.
however many. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be some way to rig it so the average NASCAR driver scores on average like 17 points per contest or something, or make it even. In that case, Tadej Pogačar from cycling, he just won the Tour de France back to back, would be a good first overall pick.
We'll put Olympic track athletes in. Sydney McLaughlin is my 1-1. She never loses. She's the GOAT. Or maybe even gymnastics. We'll have I'm totally blanking on her
Simone
name.
Biles.
Simone Biles, yes, also the GOAT. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that it would be anyone other than like an elite baseball player or like Jokic or someone like that would be like the 1-1, just because I feel like those guys are probably more valuable than like any of the best like football player options. Like how often does the first overall pick bust in like NFL fantasy football as opposed to like
versus in the NBA unless you're getting
sport.
hurt and Jokic doesn't. That's a good point.
So
Jokic is not a bad pick whatsoever. I saw some people say Yamal, I think his name is, for Barcelona.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad one. I don't know much about him, but
I don't know much about him either.
I don't know who that is.
maybe.
Is he really like
a terrible
that?
one? I'd possibly.
I don't know.
You hear about him all the time. Didn't he like just turn 18?
Yeah.
He just turned 18. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
I saw someone say Connor McDavid, but I'm seeing that he finished as center 3 in fantasy hockey last year behind McKinnon and Draisaitl. So I'm not taking him with the 101 in an all sports league.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Let's do this draft, Theo, that you had kind of lined up here, which is looking at some of the round 2, round 3 wide receivers. This comes again from the Stay Out group chat. Darrow S. Ladd McConkey, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, JSN, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Evans, and Devontae Adams. We're just going to pick these receivers based on who we would rather have, and this is kind of in that round 2 or 3 tier. Just kind of just like a weird area trying to pick the best of those receivers. Matt, we'll go ahead and give you the first pick.
I mean, I'm struggling to remember the names that you just rattled off, frankly.
Yeah, I'll rattle them off again, even faster this time. Just Ladd McConkey, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, JSN, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Evans, Devontae Adams. It's
so
also
the guys ranked between 11 and 19 in ADP on standard scoring where I'm looking. Okay, fair enough. I'll take Ladd at 1. Pretty easily, I think. I mean, I think Ladd could be even taken. higher than this. He's going to be wide receiver 1 for a good quarterback. He was already pushing for this spot last year. I understand that his upside might not be super crazy, but also I could say that about pretty much everybody here, except for maybe a couple of guys where it's like, yeah, they could, like Marvin Harrison Jr., I guess, if he all of a sudden became like the guy he was billed to be, would be pretty nuts.
Sure.
But I'm taking Ladd.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Theo, do you want the second pick?
Sure. I'll take Tyreek Hill. I don't think that he's fallen off athletically at all. I mean, he just ran some race. I saw it on Twitter that he ran like an 100-yard dash and like had an
Did he
Olympic
race speed
qualifier.
yet?
I guess Tyreek's got a crazy upside. That's the
He
one
does
dude
have
I
a
should have
crazy
brought up.
upside.
That's on me.
He has a crazy upside, right? To be, I mean, I don't know if 1,900-yard receiver is in the cards this year, but it was like 2 years ago, and he's still just as fast now as he was then. Like, he's still somebody who has ran in Olympic qualifying races and like had the time to do it. Like, he could represent the country just running. So he's still a big problem for defenses. I just think everything fell apart with the Miami offense last year. And I do think in some ways they're going to be able to. It's embarrassing that McDaniel wasn't able to counter that in the season or do anything about that during the season. But I think with an off season, there is some reason to believe that things can really just bounce back. I don't think Hill is washed.
Fair enough. So I've got the next pick and the swing here. I kind of think I'm going to go with 2 Buckeyes. I'm going to go Terry McLaurin and Marvin Harrison Jr. And I'm just going to bank on Terry continuing to be the main threat in Washington, of course. And then I'm going to bank on Marvin and Kyler, that connection really coming together this year.
You picked 2 Buckeyes, and you picked the wrong 2 Buckeyes because Jackson Smith and Jigba and Garrett Wilson would be my.
They're also great, but here's the thing, right? JSN, I really just don't know if I trust Sam Darnold that much, especially behind that Seattle offensive line. I think that's part of what you have to look at. And then kind of the same thing for Garrett Wilson. Like, do you trust Justin Fields? Not particularly. I don't know if I think he's better than Rodgers, and the passing offense wasn't particularly great last year. So I just think I have to trust the better quarterback play in Washington and Arizona.
Yeah. I am going to go with JSN over Garrett Wilson because of what you just mentioned. I think Darnold, for as poor as he finished last year, he's better than Justin Fields, and I think we'll be better at getting JSN the ball.
I have to say, I didn't love your picks, Blaiden. I think Terry was maybe a little bit more reliant on like touchdowns last year than you would like. And there's the camp stuff, which I guess isn't the end of the world. And I'll pretty easily take T. Higgins here. I understand that he's wide receiver too, but that offense throws the ball so much, I don't really care. I think he was like, I don't know. He ranked incredibly highly in points per game last year. It didn't actually turn into him being like a super high guy because he missed a bunch of time, but maybe that was skewed a little bit towards standard scoring because he's might not be like the biggest PPR demon ever. Nah, he was in half. He was 4, so I'll take T.
That's fair. You have the swing here, Matt.
I do have the swing here, so I get one more guy. You just took JSN, Theo. That leaves me with what? My options are Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, or Mike Evans.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Evans is just so reliable and so trustworthy. Adams is getting up. I guess all those guys are getting up there. I'm still going to roll with Mike Evans, honestly. I know he had a big year and he's getting older, but honestly, he's thought of as kind of like a 1,000-yard just on the money guy, but he missed some time and he still got there. The offense as a whole is super good, and there's more comp, but I think his role is pretty secure, so I like him.
Yeah, that would have been my next pick.
I guess I'll go with Garrett Wilson then. Bad quarterback or not, he's also somebody who, much like Mike Evans, has 1,000 yards every year of his career. So,
hey.
He's also not gonna. He's got a certain floor. It feels like even with Justin Fields.
I feel
I
you.
suppose. And so that
And that
leaves
leaves
me
you
with
with
Devontae
Devontae
Adams. And I'm not mad about that. I'm not mad about that. There is some level of Stafford likes to play his buddy ball. And I think that's probably why he's kind of fallen at this point, is if Stafford is still kind of really heavily leaning into Puka, then it's very possible for
Plus he's
Devontae
old.
to not get enough targets. And he is old, but I still think he's got some juice. I don't think he's washed by any means at this point. So that leaves me with Marvin Harrison Jr., Terry McLaurin, and Devontae Adams. I think that would be a perfectly fine receiving core for a fantasy football team.
It would. And if you're making your own ranking and can't figure out how to value those second round guys, our entire draft went McConkey, Hill, McLaurin, Marvin Harrison,
Yep.
JSN, T, Evans, Wilson, Garrett Wilson, that is, and then Devontae Adams. So there's your stay hot ranking.
Your stay hot ranking. Bang.
Pretty good.
Are there any other of these questions that you guys wanted to hit on before we get out of here?
I think I'm good.
Sleeper picks for the 32-team Dynasty League rookie drafts.
Sleeper picks for the 32. No, I will say someone asked, like, what's a funny gimmick for a fantasy league? And one that I like is -1 points for each rush attempt and like each reception. So you've got to be efficient, because if your opportunities aren't matching like the yards you pick up, you're getting negative points. And if it creates huge swings within the game. Like someone can have a really inefficient week for you and have like negative 50 points in a game and like totally cost your team. And then someone else can have like 2 receptions for 100 yards and like be ridiculous for you in a week.
Oh, Theo, I loved that league you did once. It was
I did it one time.
PPR. You did negative PPR, and it was individual defensive players. So you got 10,000 points for a pick 6.
You got 5 corners, and if any of them had a defensive touchdown, you got 10,000 points. And I remember Budge was in this league. CF Budge, for those of you who know him from Twitter or TikTok. And he had a week where 2 guys got defensive touchdowns of his 5 IDP stable of corners, and he put up he had more points than everybody else, obviously, the rest of the season. But that was my favorite gimmick league, was the efficiency league that I ended up not continuing. But I did like the idea, and I still like the idea.
I love Matt's bad kicker scoring. It's so great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
But
what is the deal? And you can't just not have a kicker, because you might as well have guys that miss kicks, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can not have a kicker, but there's no benefit to not. You just get a chance at some points if they miss.
Yeah.
It's a little bit toned down from last year with the addition of being able to pick how many points you get per distance of miss. So now you can give 1 point for a 60-yard, 3 for a 5 or whatever. Whereas last year it was just 7 points regardless. So actually having the great kickers who got to try long ones was a good strategy. But I think it's still 15 for a missed extra point. So it's it's a long shot. They're projected 1 point a week, 2 points a week, something like that.
Yeah, I won a playoff game because of a missed extra point.
You did.
It was huge.
It was incredibly clutch.
It was.
Shout out Daniel Carlson.
Shout out, man.
That was unbelievable.
Stay hot, legend. But thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Stay Hot. As always, it's been an absolute blast hanging out with these fellas. And until next time, where we go over another division in preparation for this upcoming season, from your favorite 3 fellas here at Stay Hot, we will catch you on the flippity flop.